In this video, you'll learn about 7 Latin American jurisdictions compared against the same yardstick in a region that has flipped from a place you'd flee to a place you'd actually live. And while the final destination isn't open yet, if it launches near its rumoured price, it could be the most consequential thing this market has seen in a decade. Stick around until the end. This rundown is built on an analysis by IMI Pro David Lincoln of Lincoln Global Partners. We're bringing to YouTube his argument because it's a sharp read on where this market is and where it's heading. Lincoln's case starts with the short wish list for a serious Plan B. Fast naturalization, tax exemption on foreign income, safety on the ground, and a passport untangled from anyone else's wars. For years, almost nobody thought to look for all 4 factors in Latin America, and the reason was simple. Most buyers wanted one thing: better visa-free travel, and a Caribbean passport or a European golden visa solved that neatly. Whether anyone moved their life was beside the point. That buyer hasn't disappeared. But in Lincoln's view, Latin America's growth now comes from wealthy Americans, Europeans, and Gulf residents who want a fallback, a country they'd be willing to live in, school their kids in, and run a business from if things at home turn ugly. War has returned to European soil. An energy squeeze has trailed behind it, and several Western cities people once took for granted feel less safe than they did a decade ago. Against that backdrop, the old caricature of Latin America as uniformly dangerous has started to crack. So, let's score the 7 against that wish list, counting down to the one that could reshape the whole market. Number 7 is El Salvador. Its Freedom Passport launched in December 2023, granting citizenship to up to 1,000 people a year for a $1 million contribution paid in Bitcoin or Tether. Measured against the wish list, El Salvador scores oddly. On tax, it's strong because the country has a territorial system that leaves foreign income outside the local tax net. On safety, El Salvador has gone from the most violent in the hemisphere to one of the world's safest in a handful of years. On naturalization, you're buying citizenship outright, so there's no waiting at all. The catch is the price and the audience. $1 million paid in crypto, there is a narrow buyer profile. But Lincoln argues this is by design. Narrowness is the entire point. The Citizenship by Investment program invites buyers into the story of a country that pulled off one of the fastest turnarounds anywhere and asks what a place like that might do next. For most investors, it's a conviction play, a bet on the trajectory more than a practical alternative citizenship. The next program asks for 1/10 of the capital. Number 6 is Brazil, where the entry points are modest compared to the quality of life the jurisdiction can offer. The country's southern and northeastern coastal property markets keep climbing, and a purchase of 700,000 Brazilian reais, about $135,000 in the northeast, qualifies a buyer for residency via the Viper program. Elsewhere in the country, the figure is 1 million Brazilian reais, roughly $193,000. The Viper program also features a business route too, and the threshold is just 500,000 Brazilian reais or $96,000, and it opens a path to permanent residency. Against the wish list, Brazil is a value and asset play rather than a fast passport play. You're buying into a large, climbing real estate market and collecting residency along the way. Demand is growing, including among Russian buyers, yet Lincoln points out the country is under-promoted relative to both its investment case and its tourism numbers. The weakness is speed, because this is residency, not quick citizenship. And speed is precisely where the next country wins. Number 5 is the Dominican Republic, which owns the fastest naturalization timeline in the region, together with the number 1 destination in today's video. Retirees and real estate investors can apply for citizenship after just 2 years of permanent residency. Come in through a company, though, and the wait collapses to just 6 months. Nothing else in the region, or the world for that matter, moves that fast. If the real estate route is how you'd qualify, the harder question isn't the visa, it's whether the property itself is a good buy. That's why IMI Sovereign's members use our brand new Global Property Scoreboard. It lets you compare markets and individual investments across countries side by side, so you don't end up with a fast passport route attached to a weak asset. Link to join and a nice discount are in the description. What surprises Lincoln is how far under the radar this one has gone, given that the Dominican Republic grew into one of the Caribbean's most popular second home destinations for Americans and Europeans. On the wish list, it's the speed champion, with the trade-off that its passport doesn't carry the weight Argentina's potentially could. Number 4 is Panama, which Lincoln calls the clearest case in the region. Its qualified investor visa grants permanent residency from day one and a 5-year path to citizenship. The presence requirement, according to Panama's Vice Minister of Internal Commerce, is a single visit every 2 years, about as light as these things get. The entry point is $300,000 in the open real estate market. That threshold is scheduled to rise to $500,000 on October 15th, 2026, although Panama has deferred the same increase more than once before, so treat the deadline with a degree of caution. Panama also has a territorial tax system, so foreign income is outside the local tax net, and Panama City works as a hub for the entire hemisphere, similar to how Istanbul bridges Europe and Asia. Added up against the wish list, and Panama hits 3 of the 4 cleanly. Low-touch residency, a territorial tax shield, and convenient connectivity. The only soft spot is the 5-year wait to citizenship. That's slower than the Dominican Republic and not as certain. If Panama is the dependable all-rounder, the next program may meet your goals as well. Number 3 is Paraguay, which followed regional trends in April 2026 with its own investor pass. It opens 4 routes to direct permanent residency. 1. Establish a company with minimum capital of $70,000 through an appointed representative to the SUACE office. You have 2 years to invest that capital. 2. $150,000 into an approved tourism project. 3. $200,000 into real estate, or just $60,000 down and a 3-year commitment to pay the rest. 4. Or $200,000 into the local stock exchange. Paraguay's tourism sector is thin relative to the number of foreigners now arriving, which does leave room to grow, and Asuncion property still trades well below the price per square metre of neighbouring capitals, so the entry is cheap by regional standards. None of this is happening in a vacuum either. Moody's and S&P both handed Paraguay investment grade ratings inside the past 2 years, and the Asuncion exchange has run on Nasdaq-powered infrastructure since January 2026. For a country this size, those are de-risking signals. On the wish list, Paraguay pairs a territorial tax system with the lowest price on the board and a macro story that's quietly strengthening. The trade-off is that you're getting direct residency rather than a passport, and the program is now enough that the track record is still being written. Number 2 is Uruguay, and it is the one option here that doesn't require investment. Lincoln calls it the cleanest example of the whole regional shift, routinely ranked among the safest and most stable countries anywhere. On a wish list where safety is one of the 4 pillars, Uruguay scores higher than most jurisdictions around it in Latin America. All that's required for residency in Uruguay is proof of $1,500 in monthly income. While the processing timeline can take up to a year, applicants must be present for just 3 years if married or 5 years to qualify for naturalization. It earns its tax credentials too, offering new residents favourable treatment of foreign source income, and it anchors the Southern Cone, which Lincoln frames as the region's bolt hole, the place you go when stability matters more than yield or speed. This is a peace of mind purchase rather than a cheap, fast route to a strong passport. You're paying, in effect, for the lowest drama jurisdiction in Latin America, which leaves the program that isn't even open yet, the loop I opened at the start. Finally, number 1, and this is the big one. Argentina established a citizenship by investment framework by decree in 2025. The program hasn't opened yet, but the figure doing the rounds is roughly $500,000. Here's why Lincoln thinks it could outrank everything else. If it launches near that price with workable conditions, Argentina would offer one of the strongest passports available anywhere through direct investment in a resource-rich country a long way from the world's current flashpoints. It's the 4th item on the wish list that matters most here. A passport untangled from anyone else's wars. Few jurisdictions deliver it as completely as Argentina can. The obvious benchmark is New Zealand, another end-of-the-world refuge. New Zealand requires an investment of 5 million New Zealand dollars, around $3 million US, and gives you residency under its active Investor Plus visa. Argentina, if the rumours hold, would grant outright citizenship for a fraction of that, with a 2-year naturalisation baseline already on the books. In Lincoln's words, it would be the most consequential thing this market has seen in a decade. The only thing holding it back is the details. Now, step back and the 7 sort into 2 regions that solve different problems. The Southern Cone, Argentina and Uruguay offers stability and a bolt hole. Panama and the Dominican Republic offer connectivity and speed. Paraguay and Brazil sit in between on price and upside. One thread runs through almost all of them. From Panama and Costa Rica to Mexico, Brazil and Paraguay, an investor can buy into the open real estate market and collect residency along the way. Most of these buyers aren't chasing the residency at all. They're buying on the investment case and the residency. Plus, what it unlocks regionally is the cherry on top. And that cherry on top is a bigger deal than it sounds, because Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil and Uruguay are all Mercosur members, which opens up settlement rights across the bloc. One passport from this region can translate into the right to live across much of South America. If you want to understand exactly how that works and how to get a passport that carries those settlement rights, watch our video on the Mercosur region next. Subscribe and hit the bell if you want more on where the smart money is moving.